Yeah, I had a friend of mine who I love dearly, and she was telling me that she was saying that I'm trying to change the world one person at a time.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, we'll all be dead by then.
Yeah.
That there has to be some substantive change that takes place over time. But we all have to be made somewhat uncomfortable. And you and I talked a little bit earlier.
All right, so let's go ahead and hit me with it, Gerald. Go ahead and hit me with it, because we go way back.
Yeah.
And so there's a conversation that you and I have in my office years and years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So go ahead and talk about this.
Yeah, but I'd come over there to talk to you about becoming a member of Dallas Area Interfaith and explaining to you what we do and all that. And I think we drifted into a conversation about race and challenging congregations and whatnot. And so, at a certain point you said, well, Gerald, nobody wants to be uncomfortable. And I thought about that, and I said, okay, that's where he is. And that's fine. You and I have remained friends over the years. I've watched you grow in that regard. And I've
Thank God.
And I've watched in a number of your sermons that you preach here at Wilshire. And I said, well, it looks like he's trying to make people uncomfortable now.
Yeah, that's what they would say too, I'm afraid.
But I think to build substantive relationships that last over time, where neither one of you go away from the table.
Yeah.
Neither one of you stop talking.
Yeah.
Neither one of you stop talking about the things that are important to one another.
Right.
Neither one of you, where you get to the point where you're actually listening to someone and not just waiting to hear somebody else talk. That's where this begins.
Yeah.
And that happens over time.
Right.
The idea that you talked about when you talked about one segment of the population exercising its dominance to the disadvantage of another, that is the definition of racism.
Yep.
And people don't get that. People think that racism is just simply, you don't like me because I'm white, or you don't like me because I'm black.
Right.
Racism has to do with power.
Right.
Racism has to do with the ability to impact through policy, through economics, the way another person lives.
Yes.
And to the degree that we begin to take that seriously is a degree that we'll see just how badly a whole segment of our population is doing. The lack of not only economic resources, but the lack of educational opportunity, the lack of jobs, the lack of transportation, the lack of health care.
Right.
All of that is sourced out of racism. Right. And if we don't get that straight, we'll be able to put some Band-Aids on this wound. But again, we'll never be able to fully lance this boil and let this poison out so that we can all be better.
Well, I want to thank you for hanging in there with me over the years, and we laugh about that, but it's not really a laughing matter. Right. This is part of what our duty is to each other, right. In part as fellow Christians, as brothers in Christ, as part as ministers, part as just human beings who are neighbors, who have to pay attention to one another. And unfortunately, we do find ourselves in a position right now, I fear, in our country where we aren't being patient with one another. Right. I understand the impatience, but if we fall out of relationship with that impatience, right. we don't give anybody a chance to grow.
Exactly.
And God knows we want things to change quickly, and maybe there are strategies for that to happen, of course, but over the long course of time, we have to know one another.
Right.
So